You all for coming out tonight. It's a Monday night. Thank you all for joining us. And we have again another letter and a great topic for you all. And the topic tonight is the real difference between oversharing and transparency. What are we talking about? What does this mean? This is something that is very useful when it comes to dating, understanding what oversharing is, especially on the first date or either one of the beginning dates. Is this a good idea or is it a bad idea to overshare? Let's find out.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start with the question. First, let's bring this up. For our Instagram viewers, check it out on YouTube if you want to see the question, but we're going to keep everybody updated as we go along.
Right. I just wanted to share on the YouTube site. If you all didn't know it, we have all of our high definition audio and video. So if you wanted to enjoy us in HD sound and video, please, by all means, go to our YouTube site, subscribe and share it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. The subject. My date did a lot of oversharing on the date, and now I'm uncomfortable, yet I want to see him again. Friday, I had a first date with this guy, and pretty soon he started oversharing. Maybe it wasn't oversharing in his opinion, but I felt unsure how to feel or react and was taken a little aback by the detail of the life stories. Maybe it was nerves, literally no clue. We were out for 6 hours though. Then I felt like maybe I should be sharing at that level too. So I told him some personal things, and then now I feel uneasy about it. For example, the oversharing was stuff like he felt his fraternity brothers all looked down on him in college. He mentioned out of the blue his parents are separated. He went on a little rant about polygamy and just isn't for him. And his brother is engaged and he thinks he proposed out of pressure, and just a lot of run on stories and inner thoughts that I wasn't ready for. I realized these things are good things to know about him, but being on the first date, I was overwhelmed. I then shared how my sister is also engaged and I don't like the situation with that, which I regret telling a stranger. He was also big on banter too and tried pulling that out of me a bunch. It felt like to me that his comfort zone was getting someone to banter with him. I'm big on banter too, but with someone I just met, I didn't really want to because I kind of just wanted to know all about him as a person instead of banter. I haven't heard from him since the date, and I feel kind of a little guilty inside, thinking maybe I reacted to the date wrong. I was super excited about the first date at first. And I'm oddly sad we haven't said anything to each other. I'm not one to feel this way about dates that I wasn't too keen on. He is the first person I've been on a date with where I'm still curious about him, even though the date wasn't the best for me. I'm considering just texting to see his thoughts, looking for advice. Wow. Of course, this kicked off a great topic to go into because, yeah, like you were saying, it clearly in the modern dating scene, it's a kind of confusion on what oversharing is and transparency. And I guess on when is the right time to be transparent or when is it considered oversharing? So we can get into some little definitions on that stuff as we go along. But first, if you want to dissect the letter a little bit.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to re-examine was the fact that she said, so I told him personal things, and then now I feel uneasy about it. So what happened was that during the date, he started oversharing informations and details with you, and it caused you to also go in and share deep details on the first date.
But is that oversharing or is that transparency?
It's oversharing because she's uneasy about it.
Right.
So
Okay.
oversharing, that is
Yeah.
the definition of
Well, yeah.
Oversharing
So
is
let's go in and get into some definitions. There you go.
oversharing is when you share too much information,
Personal. Yeah.
personal information, too soon with someone without considering their level of comfortability. So basically, if you're on the first date, you're not even familiar. This person doesn't even trust you. You don't even trust them. And then you're giving them some valuable information about yourself and who you are and issues that you may have, traumas or some or what have you in your life, and you're just from the jump giving all of this personal information out about yourself.
Mhm.
So there you may not even, like I said, trust this person with this information. You may be even too eager,
Mhm.
And it shows.
Yeah.
So transparency, on the other hand, is being open and honest. So you're basically being open and honest about your feelings and your experiences and your thoughts, your actions. So that's all transparency is. So that is how they're different. Oversharing is more so about personal information too soon, overwhelming the other person receiving it. Transparency is just about being open and honest.
Yeah. And you need transparency within a relationship. But there are some key differences, especially when you're on a first date in particular, that you have to be aware of before you go and overwhelm the person, because that's kind of what it already makes you do, is be mindful of the other person and your audience and who you're speaking to, and even the information that you're sharing way before you actually decide to share this information. So that's a common thing that you will have to do in a relationship as well, because you should kind of, in a way, not, I guess, not say speak your mind, but kind of tailor what you want to say in the right timing, in the right setting, with the right words. During all of that, it has to be considered when you're actually going to have a conversation with somebody. So it's very important to consider these things ahead of time. And so first, when you're on a first date in particular, you have to be mindful of, is this the right information to be sharing? How would this person feel about it if I was sharing? Paying attention to their body language, paying attention to, like, even if you just start off and they're kind of look drawn back or a little taken aback by that, or maybe shocked. Some people are maybe just showing expression, but some people are actually taken aback by that. So just being mindful of that. But transparency, on the other hand, would be actually being mindful of that other person's needs and feelings during that time. So that's how you would actually show transparency in a first date setting, versus the oversharing of, you're getting too personal when you don't even really trust the person yet, per se.
Okay. And let's go. Can we go back to the letter?
Mhm.
So we're going back to the letter. The part that I wanted to speak on was the fact that she said that. So I told him personally, it's around the end of the first paragraph. I told him personally things. So I told him personal things, and then now I feel uneasy about it. So through oversharing, it persuaded her to also give up personal information about herself.
Mhm.
And the thing is this, ma'am, you gave that information up willingly. So during your date. So, just be mindful of that she also overshared too, but she also did that willingly. She must have felt some sort of anxiety or pressure to do so, but you don't have to make that choice.
Yeah. So not to give in that time if it can cause any harmful thoughts or feelings for you and the
Right.
from doing it. Yeah.
Because that was the point, that was what probably made her feel the most uncomfortable, was the fact that, oh my goodness, I gave up, too much too soon as far as information goes.
And I wouldn't have normally do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking a lot of that anxiety is coming from.
Yeah, and that's the key difference with it being on a first date, oversharing, and actually being transparent within the relationship, because actual transparency in a relationship, you would feel comfortable. You would feel at ease. You would, in a way, feel at peace letting this off, your heart, your mind, whatever you want to tell that spouse. So it's kind of a big difference here. And that's where the uncomfortability comes in, where it moves into oversharing versus transparency. Because some people, if they were comfortable in the situation and maybe, was not the same personality type. Maybe that's also personality type based as well. If you're comfortable sharing some stuff where you're not get too embarrassed by it. I think in particular, she probably doesn't share too much of anything because I don't know, that seems kind of surface level. It's not like she personally said anything about herself personally, but for her to share how her sisters also engage and how just, she didn't like the situation with that. It's kind of, it's not too personal.
No, none of this stuff is. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's not too personal, but
she went ahead and said that the oversharing stuff was his frat brothers all looked down on him in college. It's not that deep.
No.
Mentioned out of the blue, his parents are separated.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that on the first date basis, but there may be some useful information that you may need in the long run. Went on a little bit and ran about polyamory. Just isn't for him. Okay. That's not that deep.
Yeah.
His brother's engaged and he thinks he proposed out of pressure. Okay, well, I mean, it seems like you all were, like you said, we're talking for 6 hours.
Yeah.
So that's the type of stuff happens when you talk that long.
Yeah.
What else are you going to talk about?
Right.
Everything. So you all thoroughly, you really enjoyed each other's time if you all sat there and talked for 6 hours, to be honest with you.
Right.
And, you went on to say also, I realized these are good things
to know
about him. But being on a first date, I was overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I guess that's where it comes in. Because for 6 hours first date, that's a long time.
The 6 hours alone is overwhelming with somebody you don't know, a stranger.
Correct.
So that alone is overwhelming. I don't think it's more so about the information that was passed on. It's more so about you all being complete strangers. You gave up information you wasn't ready to give up. And then also too, like I said, you all were talking for 6 hours. I think that was probably the most stress that was caused during this first date.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, wasn't the information that was passed back and forth.
Yeah, it was probably just all a lot and all new, especially again, if your personality isn't to open up. If you're introverted, I think that would kind of be.
I mean, but this is a good thing because he got her to open up, to be honest with you. And then the banter, you talk about the banter. That's just, a lot of guys like the banter because that's a way of us flirting with you, just trying to be fun and entertaining.
Yeah. Now, banter, I had to even kind of go back and think about actual definition of banter because you would see it as, some people may see banter as ridicule though, and some people see it as playful teasing. So I guess again, that's really all kind of subjective and whether or not your personality likes that type of stuff. And then though, it's good to know that this is how he acts. And even still, again, you said you like banter too. I don't know if, again, part of this kind of feels like fear of wanting to jump into the relationship and liking, oh, we're getting kind of deep, we're moving kind of fast, or kind of intimidating, overwhelming, like you had said, more so that this is something you would like to do. This is how you would like your relationship to go. You understand that these are good things you need to know about him and you like the banter too. It's just a lot all in one day. I guess so.
Yeah, the date was just too long. And then the second to last paragraph. I feel a little guilt inside, thinking maybe I reacted to the date wrong. Like I said, that she's probably reconsidering and realizing that, maybe I just was being too over anxious about things, and things really was not that bad. That's what you're saying here. You're realizing that. And then the last sentence of that paragraph, I'm oddly sad we haven't said anything to each other after the date. So, spark up that conversation. He's probably, if you all enjoyed each other's time in that during that date, then go ahead and, reach out to him, check on him, see if he's okay.
I think they're both feeling exposed in this way. And I think he probably really liked her and was trying to give it all out and then realized, ooh, I guess she didn't take that too well. So maybe he's embarrassed too.
Right. I mean, we really don't know.
Right.
I really don't know.
Yeah. So it could be, if that's something you're comfortable with and you're actually still interested in this
by
guy.
all means, reach out.
Yeah, certainly.
Yep. Just reach out. So I don't think that was a bad first date. You all thoroughly enjoyed each other for 6 hours. and talking, and then you all provided information about family. Really, that's what I'm seeing. That you all discussed things um, that talked about other people, not so much about yourselves. So I would consider going on a second date with this person and actually talk about things dealing with you all and
Or how it
hobbies.
felt, how
Well,
the first date felt.
yeah,
You don't think she should address that with him first? Her
no,
honest feelings
no.
about
I
that?
mean, that's done and over with.
You think?
Yeah, because the next, if they're really interested in each other, they just need to move on and build.
Yeah.
So build that trust, build that honesty. So be more transparent with each other and not so much oversharing with each other. Be transparent about your hobbies, your likes, dislikes, just things like that. And also your intentions. That would be my advice.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. So it gives you more interesting get to know him, because you said that you wanted to get to know him, less more so about the events.
Right.
And yeah.
Right.
And that's again kind of on his part, though. Oversharing can be emotionally overwhelming for a person. So transparency would be like taking it to the level where they're easy flowing with the conversation. They feel more comfortable having the conversation versus just loading it on them all at once and not really taking in consideration, how they're feeling and whether or not this is too much to them. Also, too, oversharing can make you look desperate and needy. And I'm sure that's kind of not how the guy wanted to come off, but it can make you seem that way when you're just unloading all this stuff, especially if he didn't really do this, which was good, but some people have a tendency to overshare with problems or like things that they've gone through, more so like traumas through abuse. And we're kind of going to get into that later on. But transparency, on the other hand, will show your confidence and your self-assuredness, your love within yourself. So like you were saying, showing what you're good at, your hobbies, talking about, how you're good in your profession, your trades, all these things, that would have been more so appealing to her, probably. Speaking to the guy, even though I don't know if he's gonna see this, but just it would be for guys dating, it's more appealing for you to show that level of transparency versus so much about your life too soon, in a way. Just give her that transparency of, who you are.
Right. And then also too, speaking of oversharing, it can also be harmful, especially on first dates and things like this when you're meeting someone new, because you don't even trust this person. You
Yeah.
don't know where their judgment is as far as gathering all of your information and
Mhm.
exposing it to someone else.
Yeah.
So you just need to be mindful of what information you uh, provide someone else about you, yourself, your family, because they can expose that information with other people, social media, or what have you.
Yeah.
You, especially if you live in a small town.
Hmm.
So you want to be mindful of that. Have some sort of protection of your information and not needlessly expose information about other people that may be near and dear to you. Because think about how that would, be a detriment to you and your brother if
Hmm.
word got out that you were talking about your brother
Hmm.
and it was on a first date with this female.
Yeah. If she was that type of person, yeah, for
Right.
sure. That's definitely something to take into consideration. Yeah.
Right. Now, you may ask, like, why do people do this? So, this guy may have been, lonely. People who normally
Hmm.
overexpose information often at times are looking for something, whether it's a companion. They're just happy to get this
Hmm.
information off their chest, a way to, validation. They're seeking attention or validation. They are also feel
Hmm.
isolated or alone
Yeah.
on normal occasions, or either have a history of trauma or abuse. So I think that he's more so just excited to be on a date with you. He may be lonely, which a
Hmm.
lot of guys are now in these times. There are
Yeah.
a lot of loners out here who are just excited to be with someone of the opposite sex in front of them.
Hmm.
So that may be the reason why he may be providing all of this overwhelming information, because things are current. He just getting off current events off of
Yeah.
his chest.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's okay. If like my husband said, you're mindful of, the information that you're sharing. So if in particular, you may have a habit of going out on dates and oversharing and, hey, all right, I need to maybe chill out a little bit, then here's some tips that you could do to bring it on in and help lead it more to the side of being transparent and building a good foundation for honesty and open communication within your relationship versus oversharing. So the first tip would definitely be mindful of your audience. So consider who you're talking to and is this the right time to, say this? Is it too many people around? Is it not, is it just not the right environment, the right audience for what I'm about to say? Is this somebody I can trust? Exactly like you said. Do I trust this person with the information that I'm about to say? Do I feel like they're going to, use it against me or gossip or judge me for it? If these aren't, concerns, then hey, go ahead, share the information that you want to share. I think another tip would kind of be really mindful of whether or not, if you wouldn't want everybody, like you were saying, if you're in a small town, if you wouldn't want everybody in the small town to know about what you're sharing on your first date, then you probably shouldn't share it. But if it's something you really don't care about, like maybe he doesn't care about the frat brother thing and all this other stuff, and that's something he shares all the time, go ahead. That wouldn't be something that's considered oversharing per se, but for the person, oversharing is really about being just mindful of how your audience is going to perceive it and whether or not this is the right timing for it.
Right, yeah, and also realize too, if if the information is necessary, it's really necessary to the date,
Yeah.
the flow of the date, and then also to learn boundaries. You need to learn and understand boundaries. So don't be afraid to tell people when you're uncomfortable about information that you're receiving. Say too soon. That's too soon.
Yeah.
Too much information. TMI.
Mhm.
Do those types of things. Also to find other ways to connect with other people. So for this gentleman who may have been lonely, he may have had some issues of trauma or abuse or what have you. He just needed to get this information off his chest. You may have to at times find
Like support groups or
support
something
groups
like, yeah,
or
Facebook groups too, to
Facebook
that.
groups,
Yeah.
or if you have to go blog and write a journal or something to
Write
get it
to
off
us.
or either write to us,
Wifeconomics.com.
wifeconomics.com, and submit a question
Yeah.
or what have you. Talk about it.
Yeah.
We will talk it out with you.
Yeah.
And then also to seek professional help. So if it's really that detrimental to you, the information that you're trying to share with some random person, you may need to realize that you need some personal help.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation may be, or information that you have that you just need to get off your chest.
Mhm.
And the times that is more so with people who endured trauma or abuse in their lives. So, and if that is you need to seek professional help with the issues that you have, and make sure you're doing it in a healthy manner.
Yep. Now, we also thought of some great things specifically for your first date that can kind of help you stay in line with more of not too much oversharing and, kind of into the side of just being transparent about who you are. So a good one and a good topic to completely avoid on the first date, and thankfully he did, is not to talk about your ex, right? So don't really get too much into specifics on who your ex is and all this extra stuff. That is a classic example of oversharing because it's nothing about you. It's more so about your ex. So completely just avoid all the unnecessary detail about who your ex is. That's, or your previous escapades. Just you can avoid all of that on your first date because that's really gonna more so gear towards maybe offending the person than actually helping them be understanding of who you are in a way.
Right, because realize that the intention of dating someone is to eventually marry them if they're a good fit for you. So you don't want to reveal information in which they may judge you, or judge your character, especially if you were the villain in your past relationship.
Yeah.
Or either you may just be coming off as a victim. Also, you don't want to ruin your date by being either a villain or a victim,
right?
Or being seen in that light. You just want to enjoy your date and focus on the person that's in front of you.
Yep.
So also too, don't talk about your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah, that's what you were just saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to save that information for when you actually build trust, and this person will not run off on you.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
good to be transparent about your deepest and darkest secrets with
Later.
your significant other, your wife, your
Yeah.
husband.
Fiance.
If you all get that far, yeah, especially your fiance, you need to get that information off your chest.
I think maybe like maybe a year in, like once you're kind of like, started moving in and, you're really, I think that's a good time. Maybe I was trying to think of when the timing would be to divulge your deepest, darkest secrets. I'm talking about your deepest of the deepest.
Right. Well, I mean, that's up to, that's timing on that is
subjective.
Yeah. It depends on the person and the place and what you're trying to achieve here. Because you don't want to run somebody good off.
Right.
In this relationship. Because really what matters, why does that matter? Your deepest, darkest secrets. Are you a felon?
Or an abusive person? Yeah.
Well, I mean, all of that's going to show anyway.
Right.
So they'll find that out anyway. But if it's something small, that's up to you whether you want to share that body count, deepest, darkest secrets.
I wouldn't do that on the first date, but
because a lot of you don't do that on the first date, but a lot of you all lie about it anyway. So what does it matter? Everything will be exposed anyway.
Yeah,
it will all be exposed anyway.
Yeah,
in a relationship.
But avoid it on the first date for sure. Don't scare your person off before they're like want to be significant with you, because they like, dang, like, I think that's also too what makes a relationship special, is because the timing of like maybe have like your secrets in order of like, okay, I'm gonna do this one first and then this one first and then this one, so you just like are easing it on out versus like, letting it all out at once. Yeah, gives your relationship progress that you'll see like, oh, this is now a good time to talk about this. And again, I think another one we kind of hit on before is on first dates, avoid talking about your problems, right? You want to really go into this with a good, happy, positive momentum, focus on building a new experience, enjoying your time with each other. You don't want to be focusing on your problems. Certainly don't put all that on, baggage onto somebody else. Save that for your therapist. That's when all that comes in, your support group, your consultants, your coaches. Save that for that moment, but really just use your first date as a time to enjoy each other and focus on those good things, not the oversharing of, your personal life and the problems and stuff that you're going through right away. Yeah. Oh, and financial problems. Don't men, women, don't do that when you just go in and be like, oh, I want you to have all this and this and this and this and talk about all that too soon. That's, again, too soon, because that can really come off
that's the next one, expectations. So you don't want to talk about your expectations. You want to talk about your intentions.
Yeah.
On what you want to do with each other.
But don't be like, I'm broke, fix me.
Don't talk about your expectations.
Yeah.
Or either your lofty expectations or your unrealistic expectations on the first date. Because often at times what may happen is that you may run that person off, being that they may not even be interested in marrying you. If you're already talking about marriage on the first date when there's no trust built, that's a great way to run somebody off.
Well,
so don't do that.
Yeah, more so in the sense of hopes and dreams. It's okay to be like, I would love to be married one day and casual hopes and your dreams for the future, but not so much your heavy.
I want you. I want to marry you, and you're gonna live here, and we're gonna do this. No, don't do that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just common sense. Don't talk about expectations.
Yeah,
dealing with this person and where you're gonna put this person in your life.
Yeah, not on the first date, not right away. Yeah, right. Again, spend this time really enjoying each other. That's a great thing. Now, another point is transparency, of course, is super big for a relationship. So we don't want to downplay how important it is to start to feel comfortable being transparent when you're in a relationship or even just dating. Again, when it starts off as dating, your level of transparency is more so going to be about yourself, personal within like who you are, things you enjoy, and also being mindful of the other person's feelings as you are releasing all of this information to them. So transparency in that sense would be, of course, the open and honest communication more so about yourself. It's really building the foundation for you to then release more and more information and feel comfortable releasing more and more information. So in particular, I think it was great that in this letter she had said, she was able to say some things to him, whether it wasn't, so deep about it. The fact that she was able to release and talk to him about certain things showed her level of comfortability and able to be, transparent to a sense. Although, again, she did say she was slightly, she didn't like it, wasn't too keen on it, slightly in a way, very uncomfortable by it. But still, if you're able to recognize that, hey, although I'm uncomfortable with this new level of being open and honest, I am curious, like you are, very curious in the whole concept of being open and honest and transparent within a relationship. So that's a great thing to really take in consideration. So we want to give some notes on how you're able to build on being transparent with somebody while you're in a relationship. You want to start?
Yeah. So number one, be honest. Be honest about your intentions. If you're looking for relationships, you want to make sure that you both are dating with the intent of progressing that relationship somehow. If not, then be honest about your intent on just casually dating. You let the person know so they're not wasting time. That is important. You don't want to game people. If you're trying to game over on somebody, what's going to get you in the end? Something called karma. You're going to have to deal with karma in a bad way, dealing with if you're messing with people's emotions and their time, their money, their effort. You don't want to, bring up, you don't want to start off with somebody wasting their time.
Yeah.
Like I said. So you want to be able to provide that information on being honest about your intentions.
Yeah.
And if it's intentions on being married, then that is the goal. You want to make sure that you both are rooted in that intention and understand the institution of marriage.
Yeah. So that would have been a great thing, I think, for her to share.
Right.
If she wanted to share something.
Mhm.
So these are key things. If you want to share something and you want to lean into being transparent because you feel like your, date is being transparent, this is something you should be transparent on. What your intentions are. If you're saying, hey, this is great, I'm liking this conversation, I want to do this more, be open and honest about that. That means maybe you should send him that text and tell him, hey, our date, I enjoyed it. I would like to do it again. That would be a great way for you to start opening up and being honest and transparent to him, since in a way he was a lot more honest and transparent with you in y'all last altercation. I mean, not altercation, but interaction. So maybe he is looking for you to initiate that next, step, like you were saying. So that'd be a great one to start with.
Yep. And then next, be open about your interests and hobbies. So that's what I was saying in the beginning, was that talk about yourselves.
Yeah.
Talk more about yourselves, what moves you, what you're inspired by.
Yeah.
You can even talk about, if you all are interested in getting married, you can talk about what type of husband you would like, what type of person you are, and what type of role you would play in a marriage.
Yeah, but not so much as I want you to do this,
Right.
this, and that.
Right.
It's a
talk about yourself.
Delivery difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Not trying to, don't sound controlling or what that person needs to be doing for you, but lay that information on what you bring to the table as far as a relationship is concerned. So next, be willing to share your thoughts and feelings. So this is a sign of being open and honest, transparency. So talk about your thoughts and your feelings and see how well you're comfortable with the other person. So you're getting to know each other better by, like I said, talk about your inspirations, talk about things that inspire you, talk about your hobbies, talk about things that make you happy. you know.
Even with this one, I would go so far as this isn't your next subsequent date. If you decide to reach out to them, this wouldn't be your first date. I would tell him how the last date made you feel. I wouldn't lay it on in the sense of, you shared too much and, oh, this. I would avoid the metaphors, the dramatics. Women, we could kind of get like that, how we like to express ourselves, which is totally fine. But I would keep it very simple for a man and just let him know, like, you know, you were very open with what you told me. A lot of it was what I kind of felt was oversharing, but it was good to know about you because that was your words. You said, you felt like it was oversharing, but it was good to know. So just let him know these things. And then that, hey, how you would like the flow of the conversation to go next time. Maybe some things that you would maybe ask more questions instead of, just saying, oh, this made me so uncomfortable. Don't, when you phrase stuff, use a lot of the I would like to know more about this to, get him to say that versus you did this, you made me feel like this. Avoid phrasing it that way. Yeah. It's not as receptive. But if you can just say like, I like hearing about this. I would like to know more about this. I felt when you said this, I thought when you said this, more so tailored really about your thoughts and your feelings. That would really show a level of openness for him as well. So he can say, hey, I've never even had anybody tell me this before. Maybe he didn't have anybody tell him this before. That would be great for him to have you do for him first if this is going to be a relationship down the road, because he'll be like, wow, you were really honest with me about this. I never had a person be honest. It just really sets a good foundation ahead of time, way before. And even if you guys don't make it, he will still remember you as being the one who told him, I should probably lay back a little bit, So yeah, it's a win-win either way if you really think about it, especially if you're able to do this in a way that's comfortable for you and also releases how you really feel about it, because this obviously still bothers you. So, be kind of open and having that transparency and doing that too. I think it would really help.
Right. And that segues us into the fourth and the last transparency point is that to be respectful of other people's boundaries. So if you don't feel comfortable talking about something, let them know, hey, maybe another time, I don't feel too comfortable talking about that right now. We could save that for later. So just respect people's boundaries. Don't try to overshare too much information. Be mindful of the information that you're providing to someone and think, do I trust them with this information? Being on the first date, I don't know. I don't trust people that soon. To be honest with you. So those are things that you really need to consider, whether they're going to judge you or tell somebody else about some information that you've thought was secret between you two, but come to find out it could be passed along to the person that you're actually talking about.
Yeah. Set up those boundaries too within yourself. So if one thing I do want to mention, you said that you were uncomfortable sharing this piece of information with him. Have that boundary, right? Respect that boundary within yourself where you're not sharing information that you're like, ooh, I shouldn't have shared this, just because you're looking for something to say. It's okay if you don't have anything to say. It's totally okay to share, wow, I don't know what to say in response to that. That it's an honest statement and it's an honest feedback, and that's okay too. It's all right to have your feelings and your thoughts in that moment of time and respect yourself for that. Don't just do something because you feel like somebody else is doing and you're feeling that peer pressure to do it. That it's not going to leave a good feeling for you. So yeah.
Right.
Yep. So as your relationship grows, again, we do want to remember that transparency is super important. So some more tips when you're actually into the stage of dating more seriously. So you're talking more so about commitment. Maybe you're fifth, sixth, seventh date in, and you're really trying to build more and more transparency with this person. At this moment, it's even more important that you are just being super honest with this person, even when it's difficult. So right now, this is hard for you to be honest about your feelings. It's early, acceptable. It's totally acceptable. It's fine to feel that way. Most people would feel that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But at some point, you are going to have to get comfortable with being honest, communicating how you feel and your thoughts, even when it's difficult. That comes even with not being in a relationship, to even, especially when you are in a relationship, you have to say how you feel even when it's difficult, because that's going to help really foster that complete transparency where, hey, you know what's up, I'm going to tell you what's up, and this is what it is, and but in a respectful way, of course, but still being able to be completely honest with your spouse is going to really help your relationship 1000%. So get comfortable doing that as early as you possibly can.
Right. And then also too, when the level of trust is there, the foundation is built, be open to share your thoughts and feelings, even if
when
they
it's
are negative.
mm-hmm.
So you have to communicate. That's what that means. You have to get through challenges. You have to get through and grow. So that's what that means. It's going to
Yeah.
happen anyway. You're going to run into those situations, but be healthy at it. Don't be, don't try not to accuse people. Try not to
Yeah.
judge in your relationship, but also to be mindful of the negativity. But you need to let your spouse know, or your better half know, when you don't feel um, respected, don't
Yeah.
you? So you do need to talk about those negative things when you come across them, and so that you both can work on those things.
Yeah, and conflict resolved. I
Right.
like that you said that, because in particular, you have to share those moments when you're feeling negative in order to conflict resolve. You cannot harbor it, and you can't get used to, oh, I'm not going to say this right now, I'm not going to, speak up or anything like that, because that's just going to blow up later.
Yep.
So it's super in your best interest to get used to having a level of comfort in expressing even those difficult feelings. Right now, if you're feeling like, wow, you overshared and I was a bit uncomfortable with that pertaining to this letter, then hey, share that. As hard as it is, it, like, again, it may set a good foundation for your relationship later on, and it'll help you out if you're nervous, like you seem to be nervous of even expressing those negative emotions, and that's okay.
Right.
Practice.
And then also too, as this relationship builds, be honest. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, be willing to listen about your partner's thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing here is shedding the selfishness.
Yeah.
A relationship is no longer about just you.
Yeah.
Now it is about you and your significant other. So be mindful of them. Think about them. Things that you all are going to be doing. Ways that you can support each other.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to problem areas, like
Mm-hmm.
those that negative part of things that you need to conflict resolve.
Yeah.
So listen to the things that may cause triggers in
Yeah.
the relationship.
And what the person says in response to
Right.
what you say, especially if they're like, oh, they have something back, whatever it is, take it in. Don't, shun it off because
Right.
you got off what you wanted to say. Like, really take that in, and because it gives you that added perspective of, hey, I didn't think of it that way. Because really, that's all it is. When you're in a relationship, you both are going to be looking at life from two different eyes, but you want to have the same perspective overall as much as possible. And the only way that can happen is if you're being transparent about what that perspective is, and being open to receive, hey, I wasn't looking at it from this point. Let me back up and try to see it from your stance. That is super huge within a relationship, and it requires a lot of restraint and shedding selfishness, like you said. It requires all of that. So if you can start that and become comfortable with that as early as you can moving into relationship, the better your relationship and that foundation will grow within your relationship.
Right. And then don't be afraid either that if you know yourself being selfish, and yourself being selfish. A lot of people who are by themselves are selfish because they only had to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
You will learn, especially if you want this relationship, you will learn to shed selfishness, and it will come over time with patience.
Mhm.
It's something you have to work towards, but you will get better at it as you grow along in this relationship, because you're doing it for the betterment of the relationship, and you're also doing it to allow the relationship to grow.
Yeah. And
as
at
well.
some point, you don't take it so personal.
Right.
Yeah. I think really a lot of that comes in when you're taking it personal. Like, oh, you're saying this? Like, oh, ugh, like, like, so it's just, don't take it so personal, because at the end, like you said, it's really about the relationship and you figuring out how we can, come together on one accord within the relationship. So, yep,
Yep,
that's another
precisely.
one, another great one, I guess, when it comes to later on down the line, and pretty much when you're, I would say, like maybe 2-3 months in, really respecting privacy of that person. But here's a great time to ask a lot of questions. So to get your spouse, especially if you're dating, to open up, ask those questions. So one great thing for him that probably would have made this woman more comfortable is if he would have asked questions. I don't think maybe he asked as many questions as he talked.
Talk, yeah.
So if he
He
were to,
exposed more
yeah,
than
yeah, it felt
of
more of,
himself.
it felt more like of that, an exposure versus of trying to get to know each other. So especially going into first dates, second dates, ask a lot of questions. That really opens up the level of transparency so that person can give to you what they feel like giving to you, and not so much the oversharing because they're just rambling on and talking and talking and talking, because some people get to that point, especially this woman. They was at 6 hours, I'm sure, at some point. Like she said, they were rambling. I think she even said that within the letter, like that at some point they were just rambling on. So, or he was at least just rambling on. But
Not, no, he. I don't think it was something
yeah,
like.
what she said,
I don't think he. She didn't
oh,
say
just a lot of
rambling.
run-on
Yeah,
stories and inner thoughts that I wasn't ready for. So
right.
he was probably rambling at that point. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean
long,
this was very therapeutic for him.
yeah,
To be honest with you, he got a
right.
lot off his chest. But yeah,
Right, yeah,
like my wife said, be respectful of your parents, not your parents, your partner's privacy,
yeah,
and don't be afraid to ask questions
yeah,
as well. So you, as the relationship grows again, you want to be able to protect your partner's privacy, not to exploit their situations or issues with other people. So
yeah.
that's like we already talked. That was that's a trap with just meeting somebody up front and oversharing. So don't
Hmm.
do that. But as time goes on in the relationship, you are allowed to provide that deep dark secret information that we talked about before.
Hmm.
So you can do that with your partner, because now you have that trust build up. But
Yep.
at the same token, you want to be respectful to your partner's privacy, not needlessly exposing that information with your friends and talking about
Hmm.
her over the phone. Don't do things like that. Keep
Right.
things in your relationship that are personal, keep them private, and keep them between the both of you.
Hmm. Yeah, because that would help the
E-
person feel
even
supported. Yeah.
even if you're in a bad situation, speak on hypothetics. Talk hypothetically, because people talk. So you don't want to let people in your relationship and let them know too much about what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And if you need to, you need to seek professional help, or either get some consultation, and we can provide you with that consultation as a third party. So if you need that, please, by all means.
Yep.
And the last one is
Be
to be
patient.
patient.
Hmm.
So as the relationship grows again, be patient. It takes time to build trust and intimacy in your relationship.
Yeah.
So, with the respect of privacy, being patient, it allows you all to build and be closer together, shed that selfishness, and and it doesn't happen overnight. Dealing
Yeah.
with people's the way that they've been single for a while, coming together in a relationship, it takes patience to correct the things that you've done as a single person in order for you to come together with someone else in order to grow and be fruitful. So
Hmm.
just be mindful of that. Don't quit on the relationships too early, especially if they're showing signs of growth.
Yeah. Like in
Um,
this one, I think she
right.
should really be patient too.
Yeah.
And in a way, having some grace with him. Like he might have been nervous himself. Some people, when they're nervous, they ramble. Some people, when they're nervous, they
Right.
don't talk. So this is completely new. This is a first date. You don't, again, obviously, y'all both feeling some type of way because you said obviously you're sad that y'all haven't spoken to each other since the first date. Today's Monday. So, hey, who knows? Somebody's feeling uncomfortable. I really think somebody should just reach out and see. let's do this again. Let's see if the second date can be better than the first date. Go into it with a more optimistic mindset on I'm going to ask more questions about maybe details that you want to know about him. If you see that he's rambling on, kind of guide the conversation to get him to talk more about the things you want him to talk about. Clearly he's comfortable talking, so go ahead and ask those questions that would help you feel comfortable of what the information you're receiving is. And then again, don't give out information if you don't feel comfortable doing it. It's totally okay just to listen and be receptive and take it in. That's nice is still an okay response to give somebody. You don't have to make it long and elaborate if you don't have much to say. It's okay not to have much to say. I think that's a misconception that, oh, if this person is saying this amount of stuff, then I also have to tell them this amount of stuff. You really
Right.
don't
Yeah.
have to do that.
Respect
Yeah.
your boundaries. Respect your
Mm-hmm.
own boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep. Yeah. So this is a great letter. I always like those first date letters where you're trying to work it out because it's still fresh, it's still new, and you can still show patience and grace in this stage. I think if you're giving up this soon in a relationship or situationship or any type of situation, then how are you going to last in a long-term relationship? If you're interested, if you have any feeling of interest still, which you do, go with that. Don't be fearful. Don't go into it with a negative mindset. Just, explore it with curiosity and see, hey, let's see what this second date is like. And if it's not something that you like, that's okay. You won't have regrets with not having that second date or seeing what this could have been like. At least you tried.
Yep. Well said, honey.
Cool. Well, what you got? That's it?
That's it. No questions. No questions from
No
the.
questions and comments. Thank you, Instagram, for
Yep.
tuning in.
Thank you
Always
all.
appreciated. YouTube.
Yeah. But like I said before, for the Instagram followers, if you want to hear us and see us in the HD, we also have our YouTube page. All of that information is up there. That is where we share our letters and the graphics that we have up on the screen. So by all means, if you want to, please like and subscribe and share our information. And until next time, you all have a good night. Peace.
Hey.
Linty fresh.